So I woke up a few days ago with incredibly sore arms, and I was really confused. I mean, I hadn't gone to the gym or done any heavy lifting recently, or in the past year, so why the heck did it feel like I had just lugged a fridge across town? And then it hit me, like a punch to the face. It might be because I had just played 3 hours of ARMS the day before, where, equipped with a Joy-Con in each hand, I was punching, I was weaving, and I was sweating. A lot! Just ask any of the other journalists that had the misfortune of fighting beside me. Point is, I was moving around a lot. And not even because you have to, you don't, but entirely because I was so absorbed in the experience that it just felt natural. So in those 3 hours, I was able to try out all 10 characters and arenas on display, a ton of different ARM combinations, as well as 4 different modes. Now, in case you're unfamiliar with ARMS, it's primarily a one-on-one arena fighting game based around punching. Yeah, it's a little bit like boxing, but with super long arms, where each punch can easily reach halfway across most of the arenas. But the farther your punch, the longer it'll take to land, giving your opponent extra time to block it by guarding or evade it with a dash or jump. Because ARMS isn't just about punching, but movement too. And that's exactly why curving your punches is so important. With a simple twist of the Joy-Con, you can steer your punches like fly-by-wire missiles. And since it can control both arms independently, it opens up all kinds of wild strategies, such as deflecting an opponent's punch by literally punching their fist back at them, while countering a punch from your other arm. Or tricking your opponent into dodging a punch one way while a second punch greets their face from the other direction. You can even wrap your punches around environmental obstacles like the tubes in the DNA lab stage, ensuring that your opponent truly has nowhere to hide. In addition, you can try and grab your opponent by punching at the same time with both arms. If they connect, you'll pull yourself right to them for a quick and automatic beatdown. The catch is that since both arms travel together during a grab, you're left completely vulnerable to a counterpunch. And then there's a rush meter, which fills every time you land a punch. Once full, you can tap ZL and ZR together to activate the rush attack, allowing you to unleash a flurry of punches and inflict a lot of damage in a short amount of time, if you manage to land them. The controls in ARMS are pretty unusual by fighting game standards, as most of the functions are handled with motion controls. The Joy-Cons are held separately in each hand, with the control sticks facing inward and your thumbs resting on top, in what the game calls the thumbs-up grip. You then tilt them both in the direction that you want to move. Tilt them left to go left, for instance. To guard, you tilt them inward. And to punch, well, you just punch, which you can then steer by twisting the Joy-Con in the desired direction, as I mentioned before. The only actual button controls here are for dashing and jumping, with the L and R buttons respectively, as well as a rush attack on ZL and ZR. Okay, now I'm sure some of you will write off the motion controls as a gimmick, particularly with the goofy way you have to hold the Joy-Cons. But after 3 hours with the game, I couldn't imagine playing it any other way. The motion controls not only felt responsive and natural, but also essential, as they allow you to move and punch simultaneously, while controlling those punches with a degree of accuracy that I'm not sure can be replicated on a standard controller, at least not without some compromise. There were times where a battle almost felt more like a carefully orchestrated ballet, as narrowly dodged punches winded around the arena. And to top it all off, the controls are just plain fun. Somehow landing a punch feels even more satisfying when you're actually punching yourself. Okay, that didn't quite sound exactly as I meant, but you know what I mean. My only slight concern so far involves the grabs. As I mentioned before, you grab by punching at the same time with both arms. But there were a few instances where I wanted to follow one punch right after the other, but the game would read that as a grab instead. Now, if you're not a fan of motion controls, the game does support the Pro Controller as well. But unfortunately, we weren't able to try it out for ourselves, so I can't speak as to how well the controls translate to a more conventional setup. The core gameplay in ARMS affords a surprising amount of depth, and we haven't even touched on the unique traits each character has, or how you can equip different arms at the start of each match that can completely change how you play. Some of those arms are built for blunt force, like the comically oversized Whammer, while others, like the Hydra, split into 3, making it easier to land and attack, even if it's a slightly weaker one. Now, while many of the arms did feel similar in my playtime, there are also quite a few of them that felt dramatically different, such as how the Guardian on Helix's right arm here attacks in a 2-step process, jutting out once and then again in the desired direction, while the Ice Dragon on his left arm straight up fires a laser beam. Yeah, we're not entirely sure that that's legal. Now, although we were only able to use each character's 3 default arms in the version we played, Nintendo did assure us that we'd be able to mix and match any arm to any character in the final game. And since it can equip different arms on each, well, arm, that makes for about 4,000 different combinations, at least according to Nintendo. So clearly, customization will play a pretty big role in ARMS. And a key part of that equation, of course, is finding the right character. And the cast here is as eclectic as it is colorful, with each one having their own special attributes. Ribbon Girl, for instance, is focused on agility and can jump multiple times in a row, or even quick drop back to the ground to throw off your opponent's timing. Whereas Ninjara is more about causing confusion, with his ability to briefly disappear while blocking or dashing in air. Twintelle is rather unusual in that she doesn't use her arms to fight at all. Instead, she uses her hair braids. And she has the unique ability of slow down time while dashing, giving you more time to dodge or counterattack an incoming punch. And then we have what might be my favorite character, or should I say characters, Byte and Barq. Yep, that's a robotic cop with a robotic police dog. And that little guy will fight alongside you the entire time, dishing out occasional attacks and even taking hits for you too. He really is a robot's best friend. Heck, you can even jump off of him for some extended airtime. Who's a good little boy? You are! All 10 fighters that I tried looked and felt completely unique. And that goes for the stages too. Each fighter has one of their own and they come in a variety of shapes and sizes, complete with their own gimmicks. Spring Stadium's boundary is lined with springboards that'll give you a boost. Snake Park has hovercraft they can ride around, which was kind of awesome. Ninja College has a steep staircase that can only lead to jokes about having the high ground. And DNA Lab is full of test tubes that act as obstacles, but can also be smashed, which is especially satisfying when you send an opponent flying through one. The arenas really can have a huge impact on how you play, and perhaps even what arms you choose to equip. I should also mention, by the way, that items will occasionally appear throughout the battle that will either restore your health or fill up your rush meter. Oh, and there is a time bomb too that you'll want to punch away from you and toward your opponent before it goes off. It's basically a game of keep away, but keep it away from yourself. Now, even though ARMS is primarily a one-on-one fighting game, there are a few additional modes available, like a 2 vs 2 mode. And it plays pretty much identically to the main game, except both players in each team are tethered together, preventing them from getting too far away from each other. Which means if one gets sent flying, the other person's going along for the ride too. So yeah, this mode can get pretty intense with fists flying everywhere, especially if your partner gets KO'd, making it 2-on-1. Now, while the game typically runs at a solid 60 frames per second, even with 2 players, it does drop down to 30 when playing with 4 via split screen, but it otherwise still ran smoothly. Besides fighting, we were able to try out 2 additional modes in ARMS. First up was Skill Shot, in which my opponent and I found ourselves on opposite ends of the arena with targets that popped up in the middle. So it's basically a race to see who can break them first, with additional points being rewarded for combos. But you can also mess with your opponent too by punching or grabbing them from across the arena to prevent them from going for the targets at all. And then there's Hoops, where the goal isn't so much to dunk on your opponent as it is to literally dunk your opponent. And as you can see, this mode is pretty much built entirely around grabbing, which just so happens to be my specialty. And the closer you are to the basket, the higher the odds of your shot going in. Although, you have no control over the shot itself. Once you grab an opponent, everything else is entirely automated from there, which is a little bit disappointing and made the mode feel a bit shallow. So both of the side modes I tried seemed like they could make for some fun breaks in the action. But ultimately, I found myself just wanting to go back to the actual battles, because I was hooked. I haven't had this much fun at a preview event since the original Splatoon. There's a depth to this game that kept pulling me back for more, and I honestly can't wait to get my arms on it again. And thankfully, that may not be long with the announcement of the Global Test Punch demo coming soon. And with that, thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe to GameXplain if you haven't already for more on ARMS and everything else Nintendo Switch as well.